Um, the smart fridge in your kitchen, or, the cell tower down the street, or even that friendly chatbot you just used to write a work email. What if they are all acting as passive sensors for a military-grade surveillance web?
Yeah, I mean, it is a complete paradigm shift. We
Yeah.
really have to rewire our entire understanding of what it means to be observed because the systems we're looking at today, they don't just, watch what you do.
Mm-hmm.
They infer what you're going to do next. And in some cases, they actively try to shape it.
Okay, let's unpack this because that is exactly our mission for this deep dive. We've got this massive stack of sources detailing the very real, like highly verified tier of military technology and intelligence.
Yep.
And we're going to break down how this works from the top down. So we'll start up in orbit looking at how satellites map physical structures and then bring it down to the ground to examine invisible weapons and the devices you use every single day.
Which is where it gets very personal. Exactly.
Okay.
And finally, we're going to look at a radical method for completely disappearing from the grid.
Right. And I should establish right up front. We are keeping this strictly grounded in what is technically plausible, verified by leaks, or actively deployed.
No science fiction today.
Exactly. It is incredibly easy to veer into pure sci-fi when you talk about black budget tech. But, the known physics and the verified systems are complex enough without needing to exaggerate.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the orbital view, the classic eye in the sky. Now, my inner 10-year-old immediately wants to know, do they actually have X-ray vision satellites up there? Like, can a satellite look down through a solid steel bunker?
Not like Superman, no.
Hmm.
Yeah, sorry to disappoint. There is no magical beam that just makes physical matter invisible. But what they have is arguably much more effective
Oh,
because they utilize something called synthetic aperture radar, or SAR. The La Crosse and Onyx satellite series are verified examples of this.
okay, wait, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this. Because normal cameras use visible light, which, obviously gets blocked by clouds or roof.
Right.
But SAR uses microwaves.
Hmm.
So how exactly does that let them see through a building?
Well, it comes down to wavelength. I mean, visible light has very short wavelengths and they just bounce off almost everything.
Right.
But microwaves have much longer wavelength. So when a SAR satellite beams microwaves down, those longer waves can actually pass straight through atmospheric moisture-like clouds, and they can even penetrate dry materials,
Like what?
like concrete, wood, and soil. So the radar wave literally travels through the roof, hits the solid objects inside the building, and then bounces back up to the satellite.
Wait, but looking at the sources here, they explicitly note it cannot see deep into steel reinforced structures.
Correct.
So if I build a bunker with heavy steel, I've basically created a physical blind spot, right? The satellites actually cannot see my desk.
Technically, yes. The microwaves will just bounce off dense metal. So the physical layout inside that specific steel room is completely hidden. But what's fascinating here is intelligence gathering doesn't rely on just one camera.
Right. They have a whole network.
Exactly. They use multi-sensor fusion. They might not see your desk using radar, but they will layer that blind spot data with infrared and hyperspectral imaging satellites.
Like the DSP or SBR systems mentioned here.
Yep.
But how does hyperspectral imaging help if they still can't see through the steel?
Because it reads the chemical fingerprints of what is coming out of that bunker,
Oh.
right? If you build a bunker, you still have to breathe.
Yeah, you need vents.
You need ventilation, you need power. If there is, say, a nuclear centrifuge or a chemical weapons lab running underground, it is exhausting heat and trace gases through surface vents.
Wow, okay.
So hyperspectral imaging doesn't just see a heat plume. It breaks down the light spectrum to read the exact chemical makeup of those invisible gases from orbit.
So it's less like X-ray vision and more like a really high-tech game of Clue.
I like that.
Like you're combining clues, so you've got heat vents from thermal imaging and the exterior surface dimensions from the radar to sort of deduce exactly what's happening inside without ever actually seeing the room itself.
That is the perfect analogy. You are inferring internal activity.
Right.
And if it's daytime, there are ground-based programs like Lariat and Teal Amber, which use laser radar.
Laser radar.
Yeah, they shoot coherent laser light to measure the exact range and 3D structure of targets through atmospheric distortion.
That's wild.
And there are very strong rumors that those have orbital equivalents under the National Reconnaissance Office.
Okay, speaking of rumors, The sources mention some deeply experimental stuff too, like quantum radar and ELF penetration.
Oh, yeah. Quantum radar is fascinating. It uses a concept called ghost imaging via entangled photons, and this is actively funded by DARPA.
Okay, I need an ELI 5 explained, like I'm 5 for entangled photons.
Sure. So imagine you have two twins that are magically connected.
Yeah.
Whatever happens to one twin instantly happens to the other, even if they are miles apart.
Right, quantum entanglement.
Exactly. So quantum radar theoretically creates pairs of these entangled light particles. It keeps one inside the sensor on the ground or in the satellite and shoots the other one out.
Uh-huh.
When the traveling particle hits, say, a stealth jet and bounces back, its state is altered by the collision.
Okay, I follow.
But by looking at the twin particle that never left the machine, the radar instantly knows what the traveling particle hit.
Wow.
Yeah, it bypasses traditional radar jamming entirely because you can't jam the entangled connection.
That honestly sounds like magic. But the sources do note that isn't verified as deployed yet.
Right, still experimental.
And what about ELF? Extremely low frequency waves. Because I know we use those to ping submarines deep in the ocean. How on earth does a low frequency wave from space map a metal vault underground?
Theoretically, it's all about acoustic resonance.
Okay.
If you hit an underground cavity with the exact right extremely low frequency, the vault itself will vibrate. I mean, it resonates.
Like hitting a tuning fork.
Yes. And by measuring those seismic vibrations, you can map the size and depth of the vault.
That's incredible.
But again, just like terahertz imaging or muon tomography, which uses cosmic rays to map dense structures, they use that on the pyramids, those are currently strictly ground-based technologies, not orbital.
Right.
The ultimate verdict on space surveillance is that it's all about fusion. Radar, thermal, and spectral data fed into an AI to build a 3D model.
Okay, so we've established that they can essentially map where you are and what you're doing from space. But passive observation is really only half the equation here.
Right.
If they can map you, they can target you. So let's look at what happens on the ground, specifically invisible physical influence, like weapons that use sound and frequencies.
Yeah, and this is where we cross into deployed, non-lethal, but incredibly severe weaponry, because sound is a highly effective physical force.
Yeah, the sources detail the LRAD, the long-range acoustic device, and this one is fully verified. It emits focused sound beams up to 162 decibels.
Which is staggering.
For context, for you listening, a jet engine taking off is about 140 decibels.
Right.
So 162 is loud enough to instantly rupture human eardrums.
Yeah.
And it's actively used on pirates and to, disperse crowds.
And its range can reach over 5 kilometers.
5 kilometers, wow.
Yeah, but volume is really just brute force. The real manipulation is in frequency.
Okay, how so?
Well, the military utilizes infrasound, which is sound below 20 hertz. That is entirely below the threshold of human hearing.
So you can't even hear the weapon that's hitting you.
No, you can't hear it, but your internal organs definitely feel it.
Oh, God.
Every physical object has a resonant frequency, and infrasound waves are so massive that they can actually match the resonant frequency of human organs.
That sounds awful.
It literally shakes your insides, causing severe nausea, extreme anxiety, hallucinations, and just total incapacitation.
From a silent weapon.
Exactly. And on the total opposite end of that spectrum, you have ultrasound above 20 kilohertz. There's a device that's literally called the Mosquito.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Yeah, it emits a high-pitched frequency specifically targeting the tiny hairs in the inner ears of younger age groups to disperse them from an area.
That is just wild.
Yeah.
But sound is still a physical wave, right? It's pushing air.
Right.
Let's talk about directed energy, specifically the active denial system, or ADS.
The ADS is essentially a truck-mounted millimeter wave weapon.
Okay.
It operates at 95 gigahertz, and it projects this invisible beam that heats the surface of your skin to 130 degrees Fahrenheit in about 2 seconds.
Wait, 130 degrees?
Yeah.
How does it not just cook your internal organs like a microwave oven?
Right. It's all about the frequency wavelength.
Okay.
95 gigahertz is a very, very short wavelength, so it only penetrates about 1/64th of an inch into the skin.
Oh, so barely at all.
Barely at all, but that is exactly where your pain receptors are and where a lot of water molecules sit.
I see.
So it vibrates those water molecules instantly, which creates the sensation that your entire body is just engulfed in flames.
That is horrifying.
It's non-lethal. I mean, there's no lasting burn if you jump out of the beam immediately, but psychologically, it completely breaks crowds.
Yeah, I bet.
It was tested for use in Afghanistan, but it was pulled back largely due to public relations nightmare.
I can imagine. Now, the mention of 95 gigahertz brings up something we absolutely have to clarify here. because people hear terms like millimeter wave, and they immediately jump to 5G cell networks.
Oh, yes.
There's a huge conspiracy theory that 5G towers are literal weapons.
We need to be very clear here, based entirely on our sources. 5G itself, like your cell phone, is not a weapon that is going to fry your brain.
Right. But the infrastructure is still a massive part of the military apparatus, isn't it?
Yeah.
The text mentions this concept called network slicing. How does that work?
So network slicing is basically a software feature of 5G.
Okay.
It allows network operators to carve out invisible, highly encrypted, dedicated subnetworks right inside the public cell tower down your street.
Wait, really?
Yes, these slices are completely undetectable to civilian users because the military views the entire electromagnetic spectrum as a battle space.
Wow.
They refer to this overarching concept as the Golden Dome.
Okay, so my phone isn't a weapon, but the 5G network, like the tower that's handling my TikTok feed, is essentially acting as the central nervous system for this Golden Dome military kill web.
Precisely. The infrastructure we built entirely for consumer convenience, smart cities, the Internet of Things, your connected Kari,
Yeah.
is dual use. It is perfectly laid out to be flipped overnight into a real-time surveillance grid
Because it's everywhere.
everywhere. And it can track movements, predict crowd behavior, and even guide drone swarms using those highly secure network slices.
Which brings us to a really terrifying realization.
Yeah.
Because radar and directed energy require physical proximity, right? You have to be near the building or in the crowd.
Yeah.
But to truly monitor and influence a population at scale, you have to bypass the physical world entirely and go straight for the mind, which leads right into the cognitive battlefield. The same AI matrix powering that Golden Dome is being used for psychological warfare.
Yeah, we are talking about military AI psyops, and the scale of it is just difficult to overstate.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The sources detail a Pentagon tool called Entropy, used by Special Operations Command. What exactly is Entropy doing?
Well, traditionally, psychological operations required humans. You had to read foreign newspapers, watch local broadcasts, figure out the prevailing narrative, and then write a countermessage.
Which obviously takes time.
It takes days. Entropy is an AI tool designed to ingest massive amounts of text, social media, and video from the open internet continuously.
Wow.
It analyzes the sentiment of a population and automatically generates countermessages in near real time. It totally removes the human bottleneck.
And it even goes beyond just reading text, right? The sources talk about tracking digital behavior to predict psychological vulnerabilities. Yeah, it goes very deep.
It even mentions DARPA funding brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, for synthetic telepathy and neural nudges. How on earth do you nudge someone's neurons?
A neural nudge isn't about, physically shocking your brain. It's about algorithmic preemption.
Okay.
By analyzing your microexpressions on camera, your scroll speed, and your exact hesitations when you're looking at a post, the system predicts the emotional decision you are about to make.
Right.
And then it subtly alters your feed to steer that emotion before you consciously realize you've even made a choice.
And here's the part that I think will truly shock people listening. Because this isn't just secret military AI locked in some basement.
No, not at all.
The sources explicitly state that the public AI models we all use every day are actively feeding this machine. Every prompt, every image generation, every voice clone request is training data.
It is passive intel harvesting on a global scale. This raises an important question about consent, really. Absolutely. So when I ask a public chatbot to write an email or plan a trip, I am literally helping intelligence agencies fine-tune their psychological manipulation algorithms.
Yes, you are. Let's look at the specific models our sources highlight. Take ChatGPT, for instance.
Okay.
While OpenAI declined to integrate it directly into Israel's Unit 8200 secure systems, it is still accessed by military contractors via Microsoft Azure.
Right.
And researchers have documented using GPT-4 to bypass KYC systems.
KYC meaning know your customer like. The identity verification systems banks and platforms use to prove you're a real human.
Exactly. The AI is sophisticated enough to generate the synthetic identities and documents needed to bypass those checks, which is massive for creating fake networks.
Obviously. And what about Claude from Anthropic? Because they market heavily as the safe AI, right? Because it uses constitutional AI.
Yeah.
Let me stop you there. What exactly is constitutional AI?
It means the AI has a built-in set of rules, a constitution, that forces it to be helpful, harmless, and polite. It won't generate hate speech or explicit content.
Which sounds like a good thing.
It is for a consumer. But the sources point out a massive loophole. Claude has contracts with Palantir, which is a core Pentagon surveillance vendor.
Yeah.
If you teach an AI to sound perfectly ethical, reasonable, and polite, you have just built the ultimate engine for generating plausible, highly convincing disinformation.
Oh, wow.
People trust it more because of that polite tone.
That makes a chilling kind of sense, honestly. And what about open source models like Meta's Llama?
Well, because Llama is open source, anyone can download the code.
Right.
The sources literally describe it as a military DIY playground. Intelligence agencies, including the IDF and US SOCOM, reportedly have custom versions of Llama running completely offline.
Offline, so no oversight at all.
Zero. They feed it intercepted phone calls and WhatsApp voice notes to analyze enemy networks without any corporate ethics board looking over their shoulder.
Wow. And Gemini from Google DeepMind. The sources say it's embedded in Project Maven, which is Pentagon drone AI, as well as the NSA's PRISM program and the CIA's open source enterprise.
Yeah, and Gemini is multimodal,
Meaning,
it fuses your Gmail, your Maps history, your YouTube habits all into one profile.
okay, that is deeply unsettling.
Now add in the visual and audio tools. Mid-Journey generating synthetic atrocity photos. 11 Labs cloning a politician's voice from a 3-second TikTok clip.
Yeah.
You are constantly interacting with AI bots simulating entire communities. You are the product, you are the target, and you are the training data.
If I'm listening to this right now, I'm probably feeling a bit of despair. I mean, if every digital action is tracked, analyzed, and used to train an influence algorithm, what can an average person actually do?
It feels hopeless.
Right, because hiding seems completely impossible.
Which brings us to the final and most radical part of our sources, the Ghost Protocol.
And the philosophy behind the Ghost Protocol is brilliant because it is entirely counterintuitive.
Oh, so?
Well, in a surveillance state, trying to go completely silent is a massive red flag.
Silence is a signal. The AI will flag you simply because you stopped producing data. So the goal isn't to hide. The goal is to poison the well.
Okay, it's like throwing a handful of metal shavings into a magnet.
Yeah.
You aren't trying to turn the magnet off, you're just totally breaking its ability to categorize who you are.
Exactly. It's digital camouflage.
The sources lay this out in 5 distinct escalating steps.
Wow.
Let's talk about the first one, data poisoning.
Specifically, adversarial prompting. You actively feed the models contradictory data. One day, you use a chatbot and write in the persona of a grieving mother.
Okay.
The next day, you write like a hyper-libertarian tech bro, and the next day, a Marxist academic. You inject linguistic chaff, random languages, weird slang.
Because the AI is trying to cluster you into a neat demographic box.
Right.
So if you give it violently conflicting data, you broke its ability to confidently organize your personality.
Right.
But it's not just what you say.
Right.
Second step is behavioral fragmentation. Breaking your digital fingerprint.
Right.
How does the system track how I act?
Through keystroke dynamics, the system knows exactly how many milliseconds it takes your finger to travel from the T to the H on your keyboard.
You're kidding.
It even tracks your mouse path. So to break that, the sources mention using keyboard obfuscators, which is software that randomizes your words per minute, or running scripts that create fake mouse jitters and artificial scroll speeds.
So you fracture the physical signature of how you interact with the machine.
Exactly.
Which just sets up the third step perfectly.
Yeah.
Once you've scrambled your real identity, you build a decoy, a synthetic ghost identity.
Yes. You use Mid-Journey to generate a face of someone who does not exist. You use 11 Labs to clone a modulated fake voice. You use GPT-4 to generate an entire backstory, like where they went to school, their political beliefs, their childhood traumas.
Wow.
And then you deploy bots to run social media profiles for this phantom, simulating human sleep cycles and random check-ins.
So you essentially build a digital twin and let the surveillance matrix chase the twin instead of you.
Yeah.
And to make sure the AI takes the bait, you use the fourth step, the adversarial feedback loop.
This is where you intentionally ruin the AI's confidence scores. You feed the model behavioral truths that mathematically shouldn't go together.
The examples in the text are wild for this.
Yeah, they are.
It says you have your ghost identity check into a mosque, a high-end gun range, and a vegan yoga retreat all within 6 hours.
Yep.
You create emotional whiplash in your posts, posting deeply depressive poetry, followed by a viral TikTok dance, followed by a boring LinkedIn corporate update.
Which forces the algorithm to constantly reevaluate who it thinks you are until its confidence score drops to absolute 0.
And then comes the final step, exiting the matrix, the synthetic death.
Yeah.
Now, if I just panic and delete all my accounts tomorrow, that's a bad move, right?
It's the worst move.
Why?
Because sudden dilution triggers anomaly detection. The system immediately flags that you are actively trying to evade it.
Oh, I see.
Instead, the Ghost protocol dictates a gradual decay of your real activity. You slowly post less and less over months while simultaneously ramping up the activity of your Ghost persona.
And then you literally fake the digital death of the ghost.
Precisely. You orchestrate a sudden disappearance of the synthetic identity, maybe a fabricated car crash story, a sudden silence, complete with AI-generated memorial posts from other synthetic bots.
That is intense.
And then you undergo a digital rebirth. You secure a new physical device, a new MASHO address, establish a completely new typing rhythm, and you fade into the static.
Wow.
Creating a mirror maze of false selves is really the only true privacy when total surveillance is the default.
We have covered an immense amount of ground today. I mean, we traveled from the cold vacuum of orbit, looking at how synthetic aperture radar maps our physical world.
We did.
We brought it down to Earth to see how invisible waves, like directed energy and 5G network slices, can be weaponized. We waded into the cognitive battlefield, seeing how everyday AI models ingest our behavior to train military psyops. And finally, we explored the radical, dazzling camouflage of the Ghost protocol.
The ultimate takeaway for you, the listener here, is that this isn't happening on some distant battlefield.
No.
You are the active battleground. Your voice, your specific writing style, your micro-hesitations online, you are the raw material, the training data for the next generation of influence campaigns.
It fundamentally changes how you view a simple search bar. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final massive implication of this Ghost protocol concept that the sources really only hint at.
It is a fascinating logical extreme.
Yeah.
Because if millions of privacy-conscious people actually start doing this, deploying Ghost protocols, building synthetic identities, and flooding the zone with adversarial noise, what happens to the internet?
That's the big question.
We could rapidly reach a point where the digital world becomes billions of AI ghosts interacting only with other AI surveillance bots.
Like an empty city.
Exactly. The data pool becomes so entirely poisoned, so thoroughly synthetic, that genuine human connection is forced completely offline. The internet just becomes an uninhabitable wilderness of mirrors.
A completely dead internet, populated entirely by our digital decoys and the algorithms hunting them. It really changes how you think about logging on tomorrow morning, doesn't it? The distance is gone. The watchers aren't just in the sky. They are in our pockets, learning exactly how we think. So what does this all mean? That's for you to decide. Keep learning, keep questioning.